Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace, once again joined by Blake Whitlow. We are here with an episode of Daily Spawn, still doing the Curse of Spawn stuff that kind of fits in at this point in the Spawn reading order that Blake put together. There's a link in the show notes. You can go and check it out. Highly recommend it. We're going to be talking about some Sam and Twitch, and this is actually a really, really good story. Spawn himself doesn't show up, but again, Sam and Twitch, very important members of the supporting cast for Spawn. And the character here, while she hasn't shown up again yet, I think there's potential. And I wonder if McFarlane needs to be reminded that she exists and have her show up. But beyond that, it's just this really creepy story with Sam and Twitch and about the seedy underbelly of New York. And I mean, thank God New York is not actually like this, because this is like, well, you'll see when we get into the story. But the thing that reminds me of, like with Batman out right now, and that whole thing and being, really leaning into the kind of dark and gritty and whatnot, it shows what comics can be. So let me go ahead and share my screen so you guys can check it out. So we start off issue 5, again, Sam and Twitch kind of eking along here, trying to make ends meet with their own detective agency. Credits, it's same as last time we did Curse of Spawn. Alan McElroy does the story. Dwayne Turner with art that's very reminiscent of Capullo or McFarlane. Tom Orzechowski's on letters. Danny Miki on inks. Todd Broeker and Mark Nichols are on the colors. So it starts off and we see this person who's sewing up around somebody's eye, and you kind of wonder, like, man, what the heck is that all about? We see there's a file that says missing. And the scene then turns to a diner. This guy is writing in his journal, and he's a lot of kind of quotes about how eyes are the windows of the soul and how this guy's got a mission and whatnot. And yeah, he clearly off his rocker, and doesn't take too long before he stands up, starts just randomly firing and shooting at everybody in the diner. So as horrific as that is, I mean, he even kills a little kid. As horrific as that is, yeah, that's just, in this iteration of New York City, it's just a Tuesday. So meanwhile, Sam and Twitch are called to a crime scene where, again, some pretty horrific stuff has been going on. And the reason they're called in is because the person that was killed, they were actually hired by somebody that he was involved with, significant other, and or actually she had hired them rather, because she had a feeling that her husband was cheating on her, and that turned out to be the case. So the cops call them in, say, hey, what do you know? Because she's literally been cut in half, and her head's gone and it's been replaced with the rose. And yeah, pretty horrific crime scene. And Twitch seems more bothered by it than Sam does. Sam's just like, well, I mean, it's just a Tuesday, as I said. So, and the other cops are kind of, giving him a bad time, calling them private dicks and whatnot. And that, they're kind of scum now that they're not actually police, and they kind of dismiss them out of hand because they don't really have any respect for them. So as Sam and Twitch are leaving the crime scene, they almost accidentally run over a woman in the street. And then the scene shifts and we follow her. We learn about her, and she works at an art gallery, and she's a very waspy character who's actually on her way to grab some lunch. And unfortunately, she's on her way to that same cafe where the guy opened up and blasted everybody, and is now cutting the eyeballs out of everybody's head, putting them in test tubes and keeping them as trophies. So yeah, not a good guy. So obviously once she realizes what's happening, she goes running and screaming and gets hit by a cop car. She almost gets run over by Sam at the beginning of her walk to lunch, and then she gets hit by a cop car. And in the cop's defense, she runs out in the middle of the street in the rain, and she's messed up pretty bad. So they call the paramedics. They're going to take her to the hospital, but she doesn't make it. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Meanwhile, we are introduced to a new detective who is Ray Sparks is his name, and he's kind of taken the spot that Sam and Twitch used to have as a detective, homicide detective, trying to figure out what's going on. So it is reassuring that eventually, all these shots that rang out, all these people that got killed in the diner, that somebody finally, paid attention. How long does it take to cut eyes out of all those people? You wonder. Throughout this series, it's like, how many serial killers can be active in New York at one time? Apparently a lot. So anyway, Sam and Twitch are eating at a diner, and Twitch is kind of bemoaning their existence. He's having trouble paying his bills, and he's like, what are we doing? Are we even making a difference? As police officers, at least we, had more opportunities to help out. But Sam is optimistic that things are they'll turn out okay. And as they're finishing up their meal, they see that ambulance go screaming by, and it's the ambulance that contains that woman. But unfortunately, it also contains some cops that are pretty much scum of the earth. And, she is a very attractive woman. She's unconscious, so they decide, well, why not take advantage? And there's one cop that doesn't want to, has never done it before, didn't know about it, but they kind of coerce him. It's clear that most of these cops have done this before, and as have the paramedics. They argue about who's going to go first and whatnot. It's pretty horrific, pretty graphic. Probably should have given a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode. But in the middle of being assaulted, she does manage to grab one of the cop's guns and blows off a couple of the fingers on his hand. And the sergeant grabs some kind of a rod of some kind, crowbar or something, and beats her. He thinks he beats her to death, but she's actually not dead. And so now they're in trouble. Like, well, now what are we going to do? We were supposed to take her to the hospital, and now they have a problem. But the cops, the sergeant's like, no worries, I know where we can take her. And they take her to this former boxer who is, clearly not right in the head. We're told he suffered a bunch of brain damage from his boxing career, and, yet another serial killer. And he takes her inside, and he's about to start cutting her up when he realizes she's still alive. And he thinks, oh, even better that he gets to torture a live victim. So, as I said, pretty gruesome, pretty horrific. First issue here, and we've already met at least 2 serial killers and some really sadistic cops. So I almost feel bad for Sam and Twitch and the world that they live in. But one thing I will say is not only does the detail and line work that Dwayne Turner gives us work really, really well, this kind of brown, dirty, grim overtone that Todd Broeker and Mark Nichols give us in the art works really well for the kind of grim story that we're being told. So anything to add about this first issue before we move on, Blake?
No, not really. It's just a horrifically sad story for Gretchen Culver, the poor woman that is going through all of this. And it was just a normal day for her, and then suddenly everything, her entire life, is forever going to be changed. And it's just very graphic and gruesome.
Yep, exactly. Same creative team for the second issue, and we're close to the East River. This guy, we're told, has been instructed to go gather something from a certain part of the shore. And when he gets there, it's exactly where he was told it was. And he takes these bags to this old woman. And when I say old woman, I mean old woman. I mean, she is clearly really, really old. And we're told that she has a lot of work to do to sew something back together. And we're not exactly sure what that is. Meanwhile, Gretchen Culver's fiance has shown up at the offices of Sam and Twitch. He wants to hire them because he wants some answers. He was told that his fiance was, obviously struck by a car, but then she disappeared on the way to the hospital, and he doesn't understand why. She's been missing for 2 weeks, and the police haven't done anything. And his father even hired some top men, ex-Secret Service people, and they think that she ran off out of the country, and he's not convinced. So he's asked around, and he knows that Sam and Twitch are straight shooters. So it's clear that these cops, they've got connections, and they've managed a pretty good cover up. But this guy, Wayne Tanager is his name, and he comes from a family that has a lot of money, so he wants some answers. So meanwhile, we meet the next serial killer, because again, I mean, this this is just this whole series is just filled with
They are packed with serial killers.
yeah, like it's amazing how many serial killers live in New York. But this postal worker, Frank Audubon is his name, and apparently he's just given into his darker impulses recently. And it says that he even was able to use some chemicals for a while to keep his urges at bay. But he's given in, and he's even his proclivities have even claimed his own children, we're told. And as he's in the middle of dumping another body, he's attacked. And you see there, U.S. Postal Service, there's blood spattered everywhere. Turn the page, yet another serial killer. This one is a guy who apparently kills prostitutes and then seals them up in crates. And I don't know if he thinks he's, saving them from being exploited as sex workers or what have you. But he gets attacked as well. And you can see it's pretty bloody. And you notice that there's a needle with a hook, similar to the one the old woman was using to sew up something. So you wonder if she has a connection to this. Meanwhile, the cops have showed up at the postal worker's house, Frank Audubon, and they find him there. Well, first they find his wife killed in the bathtub. They find his children killed as well. It's clear that he did it, and he himself is strung up in one of the rooms by a fishing line and looks like a marionette. And they're just not sure what exactly is going on or who might have done this. But some of the cops are, when Ray Sparks like, yeah, we got to find out who's doing this. We found another serial killer who was killing prostitutes, and he was strung up in a similar fashion. And that's the guy that we saw boxing up the prostitutes. And one of the detectives starts laughing, going, we got to find this guy to give him a medal. Like, he's taking out serial killers. Like, that's a good thing.
He's the killer of killers.
Yeah, little Dexter, obviously years and years before Dexter. So, yeah, you wonder about, all these different serial killers and why there's so many of them in New York City. And then we go back to John Mobley. He's the one that collects the eyeballs. And you wonder if he might be next on the list, as it were. And he even says that he feels like there's somebody watching him. So, he's watching the news. He hears about these other serial killers that have been killed. And yeah, he just gets a feeling that he might be next. So he says it's time to do what's necessary. And he heads out. So meanwhile, Sam and Twitch go and track down the cops that were involved in the accident that, with Gretchen Culver, and say, hey, what happened? And they're not really inclined to give any information. And Sam's not having any of it. He's like, how about I jog your memory? He's got, he's basically threatening the guy. And the guy, he thought up a good excuse, actually. He goes, okay, fine. It was raining. She ran out in front of us. We hit her. She didn't have any ID on her. We didn't know who she was. Somebody probably stole her wallet at the scene because people got no class. And, her prints didn't turn up anything. And she died on the way to the hospital. And that's it. I don't know where she went. So clearly, again, they've covered their tracks. And Sam and Twitch go to the morgue. Now, a body that's unidentified is supposed to stay for 30 days to try to be identified before it's buried. But again, they've doctored the paperwork, and the ME's like, sorry, it happens. It looks like she already got buried in a pauper's field because we didn't know who she is. So Sam and Twitch, unfortunately, have to, tell Wayne Tanager about this. And Wayne says, okay, we're going to, obviously dig her up and bury her in my family's mausoleum. And Twitch says, you know what, I think that we should examine her body. Like, something just doesn't smell right about this. And as Sam and Twitch leave, we see those cops, they know they're in trouble now. They got an ugly situation. They're about to be caught because we know that Gretchen's body is not in that grave. So meanwhile, Mobley has gone to the theater with his guns full of bullets, and he's about to take out a bunch of people and collect some more eyeballs when he's confronted by this bandage stitched up woman with floating white hair and no eyeballs, and just, a real like angel of death looking person with a sharp blade in her hand. And She basically tells Marbury that she's about to do her work that's necessary. She chops off his hands and ends up stringing him up as well. So, yeah, it's pretty gruesome stuff. And again, Ray Sparks is there to try to get some answers and figure out what the heck's going on. Sam and Twitch are involved as well. They want some answers, and they want to know why they dug up Gretchen Culver's body only for the grave to be empty. And they offered their services to Mobley in an unofficial capacity, as it were. So issue ends up with this woman, Suture is her name, sitting out in the rain, talking and thinking about death and does life matter and justice and all that sort of thing. So much more to come with her. Anything to add on this second issue, Blake?
No, not really. No, just she's really cool. She's a haunting specter.
Yep, definitely. So next issue kicks off. We see her. She is, I don't know at what point that I realized who she was, but she is in another place, thinking about how she's waiting. There's blood on the streets, very, very foreboding. And it's at this moment that we're told that it's Gretchen Culver, because I did not realize that it was at all. But here on the first page, that which was Gretchen Culver was shredded and destroyed and cast aside. So those were the parts that were collected by that guy at the beginning of issue 2 and then sewed up by the old woman. So Gretchen is out, not only to stop these serial killers, but she's out to get some justice for herself. So meanwhile, Sam and Twitch go to the precinct 29, the 2-9 as it's called, and they want to talk to those cops again that were involved with Gretchen's accident. Now that they know the body wasn't in the casket, and they're being stonewalled. Nobody wants to let them talk to them. Then Internal Affairs comes and asks to speak to them. They're driven downtown, and the guy that heads up Internal Affairs basically says, "There's something bigger going on than you guys know. Keep your noses out of it, or I'll prosecute you for felonies of impeding an investigation." So they agree, Sam and Twitch agree, but it's clear that they're not about to stop. So back at their office, Wayne Tanager is pretty upset. They've, told them that the cops are involved, and he wants to go out and get his answers his own way. And Sam's kind of yelling at him like, "You don't know what you're up against. We know what it's like to go up against, other cops. We know where the mines are buried, so to speak. And, you just need to mind your own business and leave it to us. We know where all the bodies are buried," as it were. So they actually head out to the ambulance bay where the paramedics are to talk to the 2 paramedics that were on duty that day. And they're told they're in a certain ambulance. And when they go over there to find them, they're in the back of the ambulance and they're all sewn up. They're still alive, but they're all sewn up. And we're told that it's like one continuous long string. So they call for paramedics. I mean, there's tons around, right? And they rush over and they're trying to save these guys and figure out what's going on. And they realize that their genitals are missing. And when one of the paramedics goes to yak in the dumpster, that's where the genitals are. So it's not looking good, as it were. Gretchen is, as in her identity as Suture, is definitely getting her revenge. So the rest of the cops that are involved are sitting around like, "God, what are we going to do?" The paramedics were found with their hands and eyes sewed up, see no evil, pray for forgiveness, that kind of thing. And the sergeant's like, "Just shut up. All we got to do is, take care of Tanager, take care of Sam and Twitch, and, we'll be fine." So meanwhile, the boxer, we find out that he's the one that was also responsible for the body that was cut in half and had a rose for its head. He's picked out as his next victim and is waiting in her apartment to attack her, remove her head, replace it with a rose. And luckily for the woman, Suture shows up at that moment and takes him out, grabs his bone saw, uses it against him. It's a pretty brutal fight, and it really shows just how powerful Suture is as a combatant, if you will. So meanwhile, Sam and Twitch go to talk to the rookie, the one that didn't want to have anything to do with assaulting Gretchen Culver. He tries to take them out. He's unsuccessful. They get him to confess, and then they say they're going to take him in, and he's going to testify against the rest of the guys so they can get some justice for Gretchen Culver. Meanwhile, at the 2-9, this dumpster is wheeled in, and out of the dumpster with a chain fall comes the body of this boxer, this serial killer. Sharpie Uden is his name. And it's Gretchen Culver there saying, okay, you guys call me Suture. I'm the one that's been killing the serial killers. I'm here to surrender. And she's got the rose that Sharpie had for his latest intended victim in her teeth. So again, really fast-paced, serial killers abound, tons of blood and action and whatnot. So final issue here, again, same creative team. Suture's there in prison. The cops are kind of wondering, who she is. They're not able to get any fingerprints. Her skin is too damaged. And, they can see that she's all stitched up. And they're like, I with what it looks like her body has been through, we can't even believe that she's still alive, Meanwhile, at Sam and Twitch's office, they've told Wayne Tanager what happened. Obviously, he's very distraught, learning that his fiancée was sexually assaulted. He wants to take out this rookie, and they kind of say, no, we need him. He's got to testify against the other guys, leave it to us. And they go to escort him down to the 2-9 when an unmarked car goes driving by, shotgun blasts ring out. Sam is hit, Twitch is hit, but they're just minor wounds. But unfortunately, the rookie he takes a point blank shotgun blast to the chest, goes flying through a window, and he's dead. Tanager is also hit and passes away. And as he dies, he gives the ring that he would have proposed to Gretchen Culver with to Twitch, and hopes that he says, Gretchen, if you find her, give her this. So obviously Sam and Twitch are pretty disappointed. Their case is pretty much evaporated in terms of proof, but they're not about to give up. Meanwhile, back at the station, their DA is trying to figure out what to do with this Suture woman. And, the one cop who said that they should find out who's killing these serial killers and give them a medal says, well, I know what you should do. You should quit your job and give it to her. She's, much more effective at taking out the trash, as it were. And the district attorney's like, well, actually, I think what you should do is cut her loose. They're like, wait, what? Like, yeah, the woman that was about to be killed by Sharpie Uden didn't actually see anything. And we don't have any proof that this woman actually did anything. She hasn't really confessed. So kick her loose. We don't have anything to hold her on. And at that moment, Suture turns, looks through the two-way mirror and says, I did it. I did them all, almost as if she could hear, which, probably she can. So the cop's like, wait, what? So at that moment, and this doesn't really make sense. Like, there's a couple of things that don't. I mean, the coincidence of all these serial killers is bad enough. If you're a cop and you go into an interrogation room with a suspect, you never, ever, under any circumstances, would take your gun in there with you. But yet this cop does, and as it appears that Suture gets up from the table and doesn't, the handcuffs don't hold her, he pulls his gun on her. She throws him through the double two-way mirror, and Ray Sparks is on the other side and is about to pick up the gun, and Suture just says, don't. And he doesn't. So what we realize is that Suture allowed herself to be captured. The whole reason she allowed herself to be captured is so she could be in the police station where the guys that assaulted her are. And she senses that they've returned, and that's why she slipped off the handcuffs and is about to take matters into her own hands. Now, everybody out front hears this commotion. They hear the gunshots and whatnot, including Sam and Twitch, who, had gone there to confront these cops that they now know assaulted Gretchen Culver. So there's a big battle in the police station with Sam and Twitch trying to confront these guys and take them out. But before they can, Suture shows up. It's a big battle. Two of the cops are able to escape and make a run for it. But again, Suture not about to let them go. On top of their car, causes them to crash. And they crash sort of around the place where her body washed up. With I think one of the guys actually, we're told, drowns underwater. But the other one escapes. And again, this Carnival of Souls place. And when Sam and Twitch finally track them down, there's Suture. There's the sergeant. He's strung up just like all the other serial killers were. And Twitch takes the opportunity to give Gretchen Culver the ring that Wayne had given him that would have been her wedding ring. And she puts it on and then basically disappears as the rest of the cops show up. Now, even though this internal investigative guy, the guy that's in charge of internal affairs, even though he knows these cops were dirty, he does what, is very typical in these type of stories. And I imagine it probably happened in real life too. And he's like, they get, a hero's burial, told that they, died in the line of duty while this woman was, escaping the precinct or whatever, because they don't want to make the New York Police Department look bad. So no justice for Gretchen Culver in the end. But Twitch is heartened that they did some good. The people that should have been punished were, and it's case closed. And we see the final couple panels there with Gretchen Culver on the building across the street as Twitch sees her and the rain's falling and, that last panel of her eye. And that's it. So again, I talked to Blake because I wasn't sure. I haven't read all the Spawn. Yeah, she doesn't show back up. And I don't know why. I think it's a real shame that she hasn't shown back up, because I think this character has a lot of potential and in a way quite a bit in common with Al Simmons in terms of, being killed unjustly and wanting some revenge.
There's a lot of injustice that she experiences. And I feel like a lot of the topics covering her origin story, specifically topics like police corruption, sexual assault, all that stuff is very relevant today. And we need to be talking about those kinds of things more and exposing that kind of criminality more, and not just say, oh, they were police officers. They get a hero's burial, whatever. Like, give them a break. Like, we don't need to be doing that. We need to expose these villains for what they are and take care of them. And she's doing it the only way that seems to yielding any kind of results. And she's an incredible character. I love a good revenge story, and this is just chock full of it.
Yeah, and I think when we talked about it before, you mentioned it feeling like it's a little bit before its time, and I agree, because I think we're more likely to have those conversations now, but I do agree that it still doesn't happen often enough, and we're more sensitive to police corruption and are more aware that it exists. But this thing was from 1997.
Mm-hmm.
This thing's 20. This is 20 back. Yeah, 25 years, ago. And I imagine at the time it felt like super far-fetched. And I think in a way it's kind of sad that it's become much more likely that we're to believe a story like this. I imagine when it came out, people were like, oh, cops aren't raping somebody in the back of an ambulance. But yeah, these days, I don't think and if we found out that this happened, nobody would bat an eye. So I don't know what that says about us as a society. Nothing good, I'll put it that way. But again, it doesn't tie a lot into to Spawn directly, but it does have Sam and Twitch, and it does have an incredible character that, I think we'd really like to see her show up. Now, I wonder if she hasn't shown up again specifically because of those origins that she has, the fact that it is kind of, that it is kind of, it's a sensitive subject. It could be triggering for people. So I guess we'll see. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Like I said, next time we will next time we'll cover a couple more issues of Curse of Spawn that then lead into an issue of the back to the regular Spawn series. So we will get back to the regular Spawn series. Just again, I want to be sure that we're doing those regular Spawn issues one per episode so we can do a deeper dive into that. But next time we'll talk about Curse of Spawn I think it's number 8. Is it 8? No, it's 9 and 10. That then leads into the following episode, which is the end of that arc, which is Spawn number 62. So we hope you enjoy it. We hope you join us for those. We appreciate the support and you guys listening as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.